the silent network that never sleeps. If someone asked you which organ controls your body, you would probably answer without hesitation, the brain. And you would be right. But only partly. Because your brain is not a lone commander sitting inside your skull issuing perfect instructions. It is part of something far larger, an intricate communication system stretching from the top of your head to the tips of your fingers, reaching every organ, every muscle, every blood vessel, and even your skin. This hidden system is your nervous system. Most of the time, you never notice it. You don't hear it working. You don't feel messages racing through it. Yet every heartbeat, every breath, every blink, every swallow, every smile, every memory, and every dream depends on its constant activity. Even while you sleep, it never rests. Tonight, we're taking a slow journey through this extraordinary network, not with dramatic medical stories or complicated textbooks, but with quiet curiosity. As your body relaxes, we'll explore the remarkable machinery that has been silently keeping you alive since before you were born. Perhaps the most surprising thing is that your nervous system is astonishingly fast. Some nerve signals travel at over 250 miles per hour, about 400 kilometers per hour. That's faster than many high-speed trains. Of course, not every nerve works that quickly. Some move slowly, especially those carrying dull aches or gentle warmth. Others race with incredible speed when immediate action is necessary. Imagine touching something unexpectedly hot. Before you've consciously realized what happened, your hand has already started pulling away. That reaction is so fast because your nervous system has built-in shortcuts called reflexes. Instead of waiting for the brain to analyze every detail, certain signals travel only to the spinal cord. There, specialized nerve circuits instantly send commands back to your muscles. Your brain often discovers what happened only after your hand is already safely moving. It's a wonderfully efficient design. Throughout your day, millions upon millions of tiny electrical signals travel through your nervous system. They're not exactly electricity like the power flowing through household wires. Instead, they're carefully controlled electrical impulses created by living cells. Each nerve cell, called a neuron, maintains a tiny difference in electrical charge between its inside and outside. When activated, this difference suddenly changes. Like a tiny wave, the signal races along the neuron. When it reaches the end, something fascinating happens. The electrical signal cannot simply jump into the next cell. Instead, it pauses at an incredibly tiny gap known as a synapse. Here, microscopic chemical messengers called neurotransmitters are released. These molecules drift across the gap in less than 1,000th of a second, where they trigger the next neuron to continue the message. Electricity becomes chemistry. Chemistry becomes electricity again. This elegant dance repeats trillions of times every single day. You are, in many ways, a living conversation. And every conversation depends upon timing. Your nervous system is built with astonishing precision. The average human brain contains around 86 billion neurons. Each neuron may connect to thousands of others. Together, these create hundreds of trillions of connections. Trying to count them all would take far longer than a human lifetime. Yet these unimaginable networks somehow coordinate something as simple as scratching your nose or as complex as remembering your childhood home. One remarkable feature of this system is its flexibility. Unlike many machines, your nervous system changes continuously. Scientists call this neuroplasticity. Whenever you learn something new, practice a skill, recover from injury, or form a memory, tiny changes occur in your neural connections. Some become stronger. Others weaken. New pathways emerge. Old ones disappear. Your brain is not a fixed object. It is constantly reshaping itself. Even now, while you're quietly listening, your neurons are adapting. New connections are forming simply because you're learning. Long ago, Many scientists believed that adults stopped growing new brain cells. For decades, this idea appeared settled. But modern research revealed a more hopeful picture. Certain parts of the adult brain continue producing new neurons throughout life, particularly an area involved in memory known as the hippocampus. Although scientists continue debating exactly how much this happens in humans, it's clear that the adult brain remains far more dynamic than once believed. Your nervous system began developing astonishingly early. Only a few weeks after conception, a tiny structure called the neural tube started forming. This simple tube would eventually become the brain and spinal cord. From something smaller than a grain of rice would emerge every thought, every emotion, every language, every piece of music, every scientific discovery, every work of art, and every personal memory you would ever have. It's difficult to imagine such complexity growing from such humble beginnings. As development continued, neurons began multiplying at extraordinary speed. During some stages before birth, hundreds of thousands of neurons were being created every single minute. The pace was breathtaking. Then came another challenge. These neurons had to find one another. Imagine building the world's largest city where every resident must locate thousands of neighbors without a map. That is roughly what your developing nervous system accomplished. Guided by chemical signals, growing nerve fibers stretched through the tiny developing body, searching for their correct destinations. Most found them with astonishing accuracy. Some nerves reached muscles. Others reached the eyes. Others connected with the heart, lungs, liver, stomach, kidneys, or skin. Each connection became part of an enormous living network. Once these pathways formed, they didn't simply stay frozen forever. Experience began shaping them. Every sound, every touch, every face, every movement, every new experience slightly adjusted the growing nervous system. Learning wasn't merely something the brain did. Learning physically changed the brain itself. Perhaps one of the quietest miracles is that you rarely notice any of this. You don't consciously instruct your pupils to adjust when the lights become brighter. You don't remember to release digestive enzymes after dinner. You don't manually regulate your blood pressure every few seconds. You don't tell your lungs exactly how deeply to breathe while sleeping. Your nervous system quietly handles these endless calculations without asking for your attention. In fact, if you had to consciously manage even a tiny fraction of these processes, everyday life would become impossible. You would spend every waking second trying to stay alive instead of living. Instead, evolution has given you a remarkably dependable partner. It works in silence. It solves countless problems before you even know they exist. Sometimes we only become aware of this hidden network when something interrupts it. A tingling hand after sleeping awkwardly, a muscle twitch, a sudden loss of balance, or the surprising speed of pulling away from pain. Otherwise, it simply carries on, faithfully, patiently, hour after hour, year after year. Even now, as your breathing slows and your thoughts become gentler, billions of neurons continue exchanging quiet whispers inside you. Tiny sparks travel through invisible highways. Chemical messengers drift across microscopic spaces. Muscles relax. Organs coordinate. The heart keeps its steady rhythm. The lungs rise and fall. The body continues its timeless conversation. All without applause. All without demanding recognition. And this is only the beginning. Because in the next chapter, we'll discover the remarkable architecture of this hidden communication network, from the brain's softly folded landscape to the long highways of the spinal cord and the astonishing nerves that quietly reach every corner of your body. The great communication highway inside you. Imagine standing high above a vast city at night. From that height, you would see thousands of roads branching in every direction. Cars move quietly through glowing streets. Bridges connect neighborhoods. Highways stretch toward distant towns. Every route has a purpose, carrying people and supplies exactly where they need to go. Now imagine a transportation system far more complex. One with billions of destinations. One where messages travel almost instantly. One that has been operating every second of your life. This is your nervous system. While the brain often receives most of the attention, it could accomplish very little alone. A brilliant headquarters would be useless if no roads connected it to the rest of the country. Fortunately, nature solved this problem long ago by building one of the most elegant communication networks ever to exist. At the center of this network lies the spinal cord. Despite its importance, many people rarely think about it. Hidden safely inside the protective bones of your spine, the spinal cord is like a living information superhighway. It carries messages traveling in both directions at the same time. Some signals race upward. Others rush downward. Still others never reach the brain at all, taking local shortcuts whenever speed matters most. Although it is only about as thick as your thumb, the spinal cord contains millions of nerve fibers bundled together with remarkable organization. Each fiber has a destination. Each message has an address. Every fraction of a second, countless signals pass one another like trains moving in opposite directions. One message may carry the feeling of warm sunlight touching your arm. Another tells your fingers exactly how tightly to hold a coffee mug. Another quietly adjusts muscles that keep your balance while walking. Another informs your brain that your stomach is comfortably full after dinner. All of these happen simultaneously. The traffic never stops. Unlike a highway filled with honking cars, however, these biological messages move with extraordinary order. Very few become lost. Very few take wrong turns. Your nervous system has spent millions of years refining its efficiency. Emerging from the spinal cord are 31 pairs of spinal nerves. These nerves branch outward through the body like the roots of a magnificent tree. Some travel toward your shoulders. Others reach your arms and fingertips. Still others extend into your chest, abdomen, hips, legs, and feet. Together, they create an invisible web connecting nearly every tissue inside you. If you could somehow see every nerve in your body glowing softly beneath your skin, the view would be breathtaking. Fine threads would spread through your muscles. Delicate branches would reach your organs. Tiny fibers would wind around blood vessels. Thousands upon thousands of microscopic pathways would extend into your skin. The entire body would appear wrapped inside a shimmering network of living light. These nerves perform two major jobs. Some carry information toward the brain. Others carry commands away from it. Scientists often describe them as sensory nerves and motor nerves. Sensory nerves are constantly gathering information from the outside world and from within your own body. They tell your brain whether something feels hot or cold, whether your stomach feels empty, whether your muscles are stretching, whether your lungs are full of air, whether you're standing upright or leaning slightly to one side. Even with your eyes closed, your brain usually knows exactly where your hands are. This remarkable ability has a fascinating name: proprioception. Sometimes called the sixth sense, proprioception is your body's awareness of its own position. Tiny sensors inside muscles, tendons, and joints continuously report how every part of your body is moving. Without them, even simple actions would become incredibly difficult. Imagine trying to touch your nose with your eyes closed. Most people accomplish it effortlessly, not because they can see, but because millions of tiny receptors are constantly updating the brain about the exact position of every joint. This silent awareness operates so naturally that we rarely notice it. Only when it is disrupted do we appreciate how extraordinary it truly is. Motor nerves work in the opposite direction. Once the brain decides upon an action, commands travel outward. Lift your arm. Smile. Take another step. Turn your head. Speak a sentence. Blink your eyes. Each movement begins as electrical activity inside the nervous system before muscles ever contract. Even tiny facial expressions involve dozens of muscles working together with astonishing precision. The smile you give a friend may seem simple, yet behind it lies an incredibly coordinated performance involving specialized nerves, muscles, and timing measured in milliseconds. Of course, not every signal concerns movement. Many travel to organs you cannot consciously control. The heart receives constant instructions. So do the lungs, the liver, the kidneys, the intestines, the bladder, the pupils inside your eyes, tiny muscles surrounding your blood vessels. Your body is filled with invisible conversations taking place beyond conscious awareness. One fascinating example involves your skin. It may seem like a simple protective covering. In reality, it serves as one of the body's largest sensory organs. Millions of specialized nerve endings are scattered throughout it. Some detect light touch. Others recognize pressure. Some respond to vibration. Others notice stretching. Still others react to heat, cold, or tissue damage. Interestingly, these receptors are not evenly distributed. Your fingertips contain extraordinarily high numbers of touch receptors. That's why reading Braille with fingertips is possible. Your lips are similarly sensitive. Your back, however, contains far fewer touch receptors. This explains a curious experiment many children discover. If someone gently touches two nearby points on your fingertip, you can usually recognize them as separate touches. Try the same distance on your back, and they may feel like only one. The nervous system devotes far more attention to areas requiring fine detail. The brain itself reflects this unequal importance. If you could see a map showing how much brain space is dedicated to each body part, it would look wonderfully strange. Hands would appear enormous. Lips would be huge. The tongue would be surprisingly large. Meanwhile, the back and legs would seem comparatively tiny. Scientists call this unusual representation the cortical homunculus. It reminds us that the brain cares less about physical size than about sensory importance. One of the most remarkable aspects of this network is its constant adaptability. If you begin learning to play the piano, new neural pathways strengthen. Practice a foreign language, and different circuits become more efficient. Learn to juggle, and coordination networks gradually improve. Recovery after injury often involves nearby regions of the brain taking over lost functions. The nervous system is not a rigid machine. It is more like a living forest. Pathways become stronger with use. Unused trails gradually fade. New routes appear. Old ones may disappear. Every experience leaves tiny fingerprints upon the network. Even aging does not stop this process completely. Although some changes naturally occur over time, the nervous system continues adapting throughout life. Reading, conversation, exercise, music, learning, curiosity, all encourage the brain to maintain and strengthen its remarkable connections. Perhaps this explains why lifelong learning feels so satisfying. The nervous system seems to enjoy being challenged. It responds by reshaping itself, quietly preparing for tomorrow's experiences. And all of this unfolds without requiring conscious supervision. As you sit comfortably, your spinal cord continues carrying countless messages. Your fingers subtly adjust their position. Tiny muscles stabilize your posture. Pressure receptors report where your body meets the chair. Your ears balance sound from both sides. Your eyes make tiny movements even while focusing. Your lungs continue breathing. Your heart quietly adapts to every changing need. It is an endless symphony of communication. Not loud, not dramatic, simply constant. Every message finds its destination. Every pathway serves a purpose. Every connection helps create the seamless experience you call everyday life. Yet we have explored only the roads themselves. Next, we'll travel to the command center at the very top of this extraordinary network, the remarkable brain, whose softly folded landscape contains some of the most intricate structures ever known in the natural world. Inside the 3-pound universe. If someone placed a human brain in your hands, the first surprise would be its size. Despite everything it accomplishes, it weighs only about 3 pounds, or roughly 1.3 to 1.4 kilograms. It is soft, almost delicate. Its texture has often been compared to firm custard or very soft butter. It hardly resembles the powerful command center we imagine when thinking about intelligence, creativity, or memory. Yet inside this modest organ exists one of the most astonishing structures the universe has ever produced. Everything you have ever seen, every face you have recognized, every song you have loved, every dream you have dreamed, every fear, every hope, every favorite place, every laugh, every quiet moment of wonder, all have emerged from this gently folded landscape. At first glance, the brain appears wrinkled. Its surface is covered with countless folds, grooves, and ridges that resemble the crumpled shell of an enormous walnut. These folds are not imperfections. They are ingenious engineering. Imagine trying to fit an enormous map into a very small suitcase. You would fold it carefully again and again until it occupied only a fraction of its original size. Nature uses a similar solution. By folding the brain's outer layer, called the cerebral cortex, evolution packed an extraordinary amount of processing power into the limited space inside the skull. If the human cerebral cortex could somehow be unfolded completely, it would cover roughly the area of a large pillowcase or a generous dinner napkin. Not enormous. Yet within that surprisingly small sheet are billions of neurons connected through trillions of synapses. It is difficult to imagine such immense complexity fitting into something that could comfortably rest on a tabletop. The brain is often divided into 2 hemispheres. The left hemisphere controls much of the body's right side. The right hemisphere controls much of the left. Popular culture often describes people as either left-brained logical thinkers or right-brained creative dreamers. The truth, however, is far more interesting. Although certain functions show some specialization, both halves work together almost constantly. A thick bundle of nerve fibers called the corpus callosum connects them. Containing hundreds of millions of nerve fibers, it allows information to flow rapidly between both sides. Rather than acting like 2 separate computers, the hemispheres behave more like skilled dance partners. Each contributes unique strengths. Each constantly shares information with the other. Together, they create a seamless experience. The outer layer of the brain, the cerebral cortex, is astonishingly thin. In many places, it measures only about 2 to 4 millimeters thick. That is roughly the thickness of a few stacked coins. Despite its thinness, this layer performs many of the abilities we consider uniquely human. Reasoning, planning, language, problem-solving, imagination, self-awareness, complex decision-making. Every conversation you've ever had depends on activity inside this remarkably thin sheet of tissue. Scientists divide the cortex into several major lobes. Each contributes different abilities while constantly communicating with the others. At the front lies the frontal lobe. This region helps with planning, decision-making, attention, personality, and voluntary movement. It allows you to consider future possibilities instead of reacting only to the present moment. When you resist saying something impulsive, when you organize tomorrow's schedule, when you patiently solve a difficult puzzle, your frontal lobe is working quietly behind the scenes. Just behind it lies the parietal lobe. This area helps combine information from touch, temperature, body position, and movement. It allows you to know where your hands are even without looking. It helps judge distances. It contributes to understanding the space surrounding your body. Toward the sides of the brain sit the temporal lobes. These regions play essential roles in hearing, language, memory, and recognizing familiar faces. Imagine hearing the voice of an old friend after many years. Within moments, the sound becomes connected with memories, emotions, and recognition. The temporal lobes help weave these experiences together into a meaningful whole. At the back rests the occipital lobe. This region specializes primarily in vision. Interestingly, your eyes do not actually see. They simply collect light. The occipital lobe transforms those electrical signals into colors, shapes, motion, depth, and recognizable objects. Without it, even perfectly healthy eyes would provide little understanding of the visual world. Every sunset, every mountain, every handwritten letter, every smile exists as patterns of neural activity before becoming conscious experience. Deep beneath the cortex lie older structures that have quietly served animals for hundreds of millions of years. One of these is the thalamus. You might imagine it as a remarkably busy relay station. Nearly every piece of sensory information heading toward the cortex passes through the thalamus first. Touch, sound, sight, temperature, pressure. It helps organize incoming information before distributing it to the appropriate destinations. Only one major sense largely bypasses this station: smell. This unusual shortcut may explain why certain scents trigger memories with remarkable vividness. The aroma of fresh bread, the scent of pine trees, the fragrance of a particular perfume. Sometimes a single smell instantly transports someone decades into the past. Nearby lies a small, curved structure called the hippocampus. Despite its modest size, it performs one of the brain's most extraordinary tasks. It helps transform today's experiences into tomorrow's memories. Without a functioning hippocampus, new experiences become surprisingly difficult to store for the future. You might remember childhood events perfectly while forgetting conversations that happened only minutes ago. Researchers have learned a great deal about memory through studying this remarkable region. Each new experience slightly reshapes its delicate networks. Not every memory survives. Many fade naturally. Others strengthen through repetition. Some become linked with powerful emotions, making them easier to recall years later. This gentle process continues throughout your life. Nearby sits another small structure with an outsized influence: the amygdala. Often associated with emotion, particularly fear, it actually contributes to many emotional experiences, helping determine which situations deserve special attention. If something feels especially important, exciting, joyful, or dangerous, the amygdala helps signal that this moment matters. Interestingly, emotionally significant events are often remembered more clearly than ordinary ones. Your brain quietly marks them as worth preserving. Far below these higher regions lies one of the oldest parts of the nervous system, the brainstem. From an evolutionary perspective, it is ancient. From a practical perspective, it is indispensable. The brainstem regulates many functions that continue whether or not you think about them. Breathing, heart rate, blood pressure, swallowing, sleep-wake cycles, basic alertness. Every night, while consciousness drifts into dreams, the brainstem faithfully continues its work. It never asks for recognition. It simply keeps life moving forward. Attached behind it sits the cerebellum, whose name means little brain. Although much smaller than the cerebrum, it contains an astonishing number of neurons, more than half of all the neurons in your entire brain. For years, Scientists believed the cerebellum focused mainly on balance and coordination. Today we know its contributions are even broader. It helps fine-tune movement, improve timing, refine motor learning, contribute to certain aspects of thinking and language. Whenever you ride a bicycle effortlessly after years of practice, thank your cerebellum for helping transform awkward effort into graceful habit. Perhaps one of the brain's greatest achievements is not intelligence alone. It is prediction. Rather than merely reacting to the world, your brain constantly anticipates what will happen next. As you reach for a cup, it predicts how heavy it will feel. As someone speaks, it guesses the next word before it arrives. While walking across familiar stairs, it estimates where your foot should land before each step. This predictive ability makes everyday life feel smooth and effortless. Most of the time, you notice only when predictions fail. When a box is much heavier than expected. When one stair is missing. When someone finishes a familiar sentence in a completely unexpected way. Suddenly, your awareness sharpens. The brain updates its expectations. And life continues. Even now, as you relax, this remarkable organ remains quietly active. Billions of neurons exchange signals in carefully coordinated rhythms. Different regions communicate in synchronized waves. Some strengthen memories from the day. Others regulate breathing and heartbeat. Still others prepare tomorrow's thoughts while today's slowly drift into rest. Inside your skull rests a universe only a few pounds in weight. Soft enough to be easily damaged. Powerful enough to imagine galaxies. Delicate enough to dream. Complex enough to wonder about itself. And remarkably, this extraordinary universe never works alone. Because next, we'll leave the brain behind and explore another hidden system working alongside it every second of your life. The autonomic nervous system, the silent guardian that regulates your heartbeat, digestion, breathing, and countless other processes without ever asking for your attention. The silent autopilot that keeps you alive. Imagine boarding a magnificent ocean liner. Passengers stroll across the decks, enjoy the view, read books, share meals, and watch the sunset over the water. To them, the journey feels peaceful and effortless. But deep below the decks, hidden from view, another world is constantly at work. Engineers monitor the engines. Pumps move water. Generators supply electricity. Navigation systems calculate the safest course. Thousands of small adjustments happen every minute, ensuring that the ship glides smoothly across the sea. The passengers rarely think about any of it. Your body works in much the same way. Most of your attention is focused on thoughts, conversations, work, family, or the world around you. Meanwhile, beneath your awareness, an extraordinary system quietly manages the countless details that keep you alive. This hidden caretaker is called the autonomic nervous system. The word autonomic comes from the idea of operating automatically. Unlike raising your hand or deciding to walk across a room, these functions usually happen without conscious effort. You do not wake each morning remembering to start your heart. You do not consciously tell your stomach when to begin digestion. You do not calculate exactly how much blood should flow to your kidneys every minute. Fortunately, you never have to. The autonomic nervous system handles these responsibilities with remarkable reliability. Every second of every day of every year, even while you sleep. In many ways, it is your body's most devoted caretaker. It never takes a vacation. It never clocks out. It never asks for applause. The autonomic nervous system is usually divided into three closely connected parts. The first is the sympathetic nervous system. Despite its friendly-sounding name, it has nothing to do with kindness or compassion. Instead, it prepares your body for action. Scientists often summarize its role with a familiar phrase: Fight or flight. Imagine that you are peacefully walking through a forest. Birds are singing. A gentle breeze moves through the trees. Then suddenly, without warning, a large branch crashes to the ground nearby. Before you even have time to think, your body changes. Your heart begins beating faster. Your breathing deepens. Your pupils widen. Blood is redirected toward your muscles. Digestion slows. Your senses sharpen. Within seconds, your body has transformed from a state of quiet relaxation into one prepared for rapid movement. This is the sympathetic nervous system doing exactly what evolution designed it to do. Thousands of years ago, such rapid changes often meant the difference between survival and danger. Our ancestors faced predators, storms, unstable cliffs, and countless unexpected threats. Those whose bodies responded quickly often survived long enough to have children. Generation after generation, this remarkable emergency system became finely tuned. Today, however, the challenges are often different. The nervous system may respond similarly whether facing a charging animal or an overflowing email inbox. An unexpected phone call, heavy traffic, a difficult conversation, public speaking, financial worries. Although modern stress rarely requires sprinting across a field, your nervous system often reacts as though physical action might be necessary. This ancient survival system remains remarkably faithful to its original design. Fortunately, it has an equally remarkable partner: the parasympathetic nervous system. If the sympathetic system is the accelerator, the parasympathetic system is the brake. Its purpose is not excitement. Its purpose is restoration. Scientists sometimes summarize its role as rest and digest. When danger has passed, the parasympathetic system gently begins reversing many of the body's emergency changes. Heart rate slows. Breathing becomes calmer. Digestion resumes. Blood pressure gradually decreases. Muscles begin relaxing. The body quietly shifts from survival mode back into maintenance mode. One of the most important pathways involved in this calming process is the vagus nerve. Despite its singular name, it is actually a pair of nerves, one on each side of the body. The word vagus comes from a Latin word meaning wandering. It is an appropriate description. These nerves wander from the brainstem through the neck and into the chest and abdomen, connecting with the heart, lungs, stomach, intestines, liver, and several other organs. They carry an astonishing amount of information. Interestingly, many of the messages traveling through the vagus nerve move upward, from the body to the brain, rather than downward. Your organs are constantly reporting their status. The stomach quietly communicates whether it is stretching after a meal. The lungs report each breath. The heart shares its rhythm. The intestines provide updates about digestion. Far from being isolated, the brain is in continuous conversation with the rest of the body. Scientists are discovering more every year about this remarkable dialogue. One particularly fascinating finding is that slow, gentle breathing can influence the autonomic nervous system. When breathing naturally becomes slower and more relaxed, signals traveling through the vagus nerve may encourage the parasympathetic system to become more active. This does not mean breathing solves every problem. Life remains wonderfully complex. But it does help explain why moments of peaceful breathing often feel physically calming as well as emotionally soothing. Your body and mind are deeply connected. Neither works entirely alone. The third major component of the autonomic nervous system receives much less attention. It is called the enteric nervous system. Some scientists affectionately refer to it as the second brain. Hidden within the walls of your digestive tract, it contains hundreds of millions of neurons. That is more neurons than are found in the spinal cord of many animals. This extensive network helps coordinate digestion. It regulates the rhythmic contractions that move food through the intestines. It helps control digestive secretions. It communicates constantly with the brain. Although the enteric nervous system cannot think or reason as your brain does, it possesses remarkable independence. Even if isolated from the brain, many digestive patterns continue functioning for quite some time. It is an extraordinary example of how distributed intelligence exists throughout the body. Perhaps this is one reason people often describe having a gut feeling. While that phrase is usually metaphorical, it reflects the genuine communication taking place between the digestive system and the brain. Researchers continue exploring how these conversations may influence mood, appetite, immune function, and overall well-being. Every year brings new discoveries. The autonomic nervous system also performs countless tiny adjustments that most people never notice. Stand up quickly from a chair. Almost instantly, sensors detect that gravity has shifted blood toward your legs. Within moments, your heart slightly changes its rhythm. Blood vessels subtly tighten. Blood pressure adjusts. Without these automatic corrections, simply standing could cause frequent fainting. Walk into a warm room. Your body quietly begins increasing blood flow toward the skin. Sweat glands prepare to cool you. Enter a cold environment. Tiny muscles near hair follicles contract, creating goosebumps. Blood vessels near the skin narrow to help conserve heat. All of this happens without conscious calculation. The autonomic nervous system constantly predicts, adjusts, and fine-tunes your internal environment. Scientists call this remarkable balance homeostasis. Rather than keeping every measurement perfectly constant, homeostasis maintains healthy ranges. Body temperature fluctuates slightly. Heart rate changes from moment to moment. Blood pressure rises and falls. Hormones vary throughout the day. Like a skilled orchestra conductor, the autonomic nervous system continuously coordinates hundreds of moving parts without allowing chaos to emerge. It is an ongoing act of balance rather than rigid control. Perhaps the most beautiful aspect of this hidden system is its quiet humility. It performs millions of tasks every hour. It coordinates organs that rarely receive appreciation. It solves problems before they become noticeable. Only when something goes wrong do we suddenly realize how extraordinary normal life truly is. Right now, as you continue listening, this invisible caretaker remains busy. Your heart beats with gentle precision. Your lungs exchange oxygen for carbon dioxide. Your stomach continues its patient work. Your liver processes nutrients. Your kidneys quietly filter your blood. Your blood vessels make tiny adjustments with every breath. Your pupils subtly respond to changing light. None of these actions require your attention. Your body simply knows what to do. It is one of nature's most elegant achievements. A silent autopilot. Faithful. Patient. Working every second since before the day you were born. And as remarkable as this automatic system is, it relies on another hidden language, one made not of electrical impulses alone, but of tiny chemical messengers that travel through your bloodstream, coordinating nearly every organ in your body. In the next chapter, we'll explore how your nervous system and your hormones work together, carrying on one of the quietest and most sophisticated conversations in all of biology. The secret conversation between nerves and hormones. Imagine trying to run an entire country using only telephone calls. Every message would arrive almost instantly. Instructions could be changed in seconds. Questions could be answered immediately. Now imagine trying to run that same country using only handwritten letters. The messages would travel much more slowly. But once they arrived, their effects might last for hours, days, or even weeks. Your body uses both systems. The nervous system is like an incredibly fast telephone network. Hormones are more like carefully delivered letters, traveling through the bloodstream to distant destinations. Neither system could manage your body alone. Instead, they work together in one of the most elegant partnerships found anywhere in nature. Every second of every day, electrical signals and chemical messengers cooperate so smoothly that most people never notice the conversation taking place. The nervous system specializes in speed. Need to pull your hand away from a hot stove? The message travels in fractions of a second. Need to catch yourself after slipping on wet pavement? Your muscles receive instructions almost instantly. Need your eyes to adjust as you step into bright sunlight? The response begins before you consciously think about it. Hormones, however, have a different mission. They do not rush. Instead, they create longer-lasting changes that help your body adapt over minutes, hours, days, or even months. Growing taller during childhood. Healing after an injury. Preparing the body for sleep each evening. Regulating hunger. Supporting pregnancy. Managing metabolism. These are tasks where patience matters more than speed. The bridge connecting these two remarkable systems lies deep inside the brain. It is a tiny region called the hypothalamus. Despite being only about the size of an almond, the hypothalamus is one of the busiest control centers in your body. It constantly gathers information from countless sources. How warm is your body? How much water is available? Are your energy stores running low? Is it daytime or nighttime? Are stress levels increasing? Has your blood pressure changed? Almost like an experienced orchestra conductor, the hypothalamus listens to dozens of different sections before gently guiding the entire performance. Just beneath it hangs another tiny structure, the pituitary gland. It is often called the master gland. Although no larger than a pea, it releases hormones that influence many other glands throughout the body. It sends instructions to the thyroid, the adrenal glands, the reproductive organs, growth tissues, milk production after childbirth, water balance, and many other systems. For years, scientists described the pituitary as the body's chief executive. Today, we know the picture is slightly more complex. The pituitary works closely with the hypothalamus, constantly exchanging information. Rather than one boss giving orders, they function more like trusted partners in continuous conversation. One of the most fascinating aspects of this partnership is timing. Your body follows daily rhythms that continue even when you are asleep. These natural cycles are known as circadian rhythms. Nearly every cell in your body contains tiny biological clocks. Together, they help coordinate countless activities across the day. One hormone especially famous for its daily rhythm is melatonin. As evening approaches and light gradually fades, the brain begins encouraging melatonin production. This hormone does not force you to sleep. Instead, it gently signals that nighttime has arrived. It helps prepare the body for rest. Morning brings a different pattern. As daylight increases, melatonin levels naturally decline. Another hormone, cortisol, begins rising before many people even open their eyes. Although cortisol often receives a negative reputation because it increases during stress, it actually serves many essential purposes. In healthy amounts, it helps wake you up. It supports metabolism. It influences blood pressure. It helps regulate inflammation. Like many things in biology, balance matters more than labels. A hormone is rarely simply good or bad. Its effects depend on timing, amount, and circumstance. Insulin provides another beautiful example. After you enjoy a meal, glucose from digested carbohydrates enters your bloodstream. The pancreas notices this increase. It releases insulin. Insulin helps guide glucose into cells where it can be used for energy or stored for later. Without this carefully regulated system, cells would struggle to access one of their most important fuel sources. Remarkably, the nervous system helps prepare for meals even before the first bite. the smell of fresh bread, the sight of a favorite dessert, even the expectation of eating. These sensory experiences can begin activating digestive processes long before food reaches the stomach. Your brain is constantly anticipating the future. Scientists sometimes call this the cephalic phase response. The body starts preparing before the meal even begins. Stress offers another fascinating example of cooperation between nerves and hormones. Imagine hearing a loud crash in the middle of the night. Almost immediately, your sympathetic nervous system becomes active. Within seconds, your heart beats faster. Your breathing changes. Your muscles become more alert. Shortly afterward, hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol begin reinforcing these changes. The nervous system responds first. The hormonal system helps sustain the response if necessary. Once safety returns, calming signals gradually allow both systems to settle back toward their usual balance. This remarkable coordination helps explain why the body responds so efficiently to changing situations. Interestingly, emotions also involve this partnership. Joy, surprise, excitement, affection, sadness, fear. None arise from a single brain region or one particular chemical. Instead, emotions emerge from wonderfully complex interactions involving neural circuits, hormones, memories, sensory information, and life experiences. Scientists continue learning more each year. The deeper they investigate, the more interconnected everything appears. One particularly intriguing area of research explores the relationship between the immune system, hormones, and the nervous system. For many years, these were studied almost independently. Today, researchers recognize that they communicate constantly. Immune cells release signaling molecules that influence the brain. The brain influences immune responses through nerves and hormones. The endocrine system joins the conversation as well. Rather than separate departments working in isolation, the body resembles an enormous community where information flows continuously in every direction. Even appetite depends upon this remarkable dialogue. The stomach releases hormones that help inform the brain when it is empty. Fat tissue communicates long-term energy storage. The intestines provide updates after nutrients arrive. The hypothalamus combines these messages before influencing sensations of hunger or fullness. Eating is not controlled by willpower alone. It reflects an extraordinarily sophisticated conversation among multiple organs. Perhaps one of the greatest surprises in biology is how much anticipation shapes bodily function. Your body is rarely waiting passively for events to happen. Instead, it constantly predicts. It prepares digestive juices before meals, raises alertness before waking, adjusts circulation before standing, releases hormones before expected activity. Much of what feels automatic is actually carefully planned in advance. This predictive ability helps conserve energy while improving efficiency. Nature has learned that preparing early often works better than reacting late. As evening deepens and your own body quietly prepares for rest, millions of these invisible conversations continue. Hormones drift gently through your bloodstream. Neurons exchange rapid electrical signals. Organs send status reports. The hypothalamus compares information. The pituitary coordinates responses. The adrenal glands, pancreas, thyroid, and many other organs contribute their voices. No single part controls everything. Instead, life emerges from cooperation. A vast biological conversation. Silent, continuous, wonderfully balanced. Every heartbeat, every breath, every peaceful moment depends upon countless messages arriving at exactly the right place, at almost exactly the right time. And yet, perhaps the most astonishing partnership of all is still waiting to be explored. Because your nervous system is never truly working alone. It shares your body with trillions of microscopic companions, tiny organisms living quietly within you, influencing digestion, immunity, and even sending surprising messages back to your brain. In the next chapter, we'll journey into the extraordinary connection between your nervous system and the hidden world of the gut, where some of the smallest living creatures inside your body may have a larger influence than anyone once imagined. The hidden world inside your gut that talks to your brain. Imagine waking one morning to discover that your home is not occupied by just one family. Instead, trillions of tiny guests have quietly lived there all along. They help prepare your meals, recycle your waste, protect your walls from unwanted visitors, even send messages that influence how the house is managed. It sounds like something from science fiction. Yet something surprisingly similar is happening inside your body every moment of your life. Within your digestive system lives an enormous community of microscopic organisms known as the gut microbiome. Most are bacteria. Others include fungi, viruses, and other tiny life forms that are harmless or even helpful to us. Although they are invisible to the naked eye, together they weigh roughly as much as a human brain, though estimates vary from person to person. For many years, scientists viewed these microbes as little more than passengers. Some were useful. Some caused disease. Most simply existed. Today, that picture has changed dramatically. Researchers now recognize that the microbiome participates in an astonishing number of processes throughout the body. Digestion, vitamin production, immune function, protection against harmful microbes, and perhaps most surprisingly, communication with the nervous system. This ongoing dialogue is often called the gut-brain axis. Rather than existing as separate systems, your brain and digestive tract remain in constant conversation. Messages travel in multiple directions. The brain influences the gut. The gut sends information back. The nervous system, immune system, hormones, and trillions of microorganisms all contribute to this remarkable exchange. It is less like a single telephone line and more like a lively town square where countless conversations happen simultaneously. Long before scientists understood these connections, people noticed something curious. Strong emotions often seem to affect the stomach. Before an important speech, someone might feel butterflies. During moments of anxiety, appetite may disappear. Excitement can make digestion seem unusually active. After receiving wonderful news, food may suddenly taste better. These familiar experiences remind us that the brain and digestive system have always been closely linked. Now science is gradually uncovering how deep that connection truly is. One major communication route is the vagus nerve. We met this remarkable nerve in the previous chapter, wandering from the brainstem through the chest and into the abdomen. It serves as one of the busiest communication highways between the brain and many internal organs. The digestive system constantly sends updates along this pathway. How full is the stomach? Are nutrients arriving? Is the intestinal wall stretching? Has something unusual been detected? These messages help the brain maintain a constantly updated picture of the body's internal condition. Yet nerves tell only part of the story. Gut microbes also produce an astonishing variety of chemical compounds. Some help digest dietary fiber into substances called short-chain fatty acids. These molecules nourish cells lining the intestines and may influence inflammation, metabolism, and even certain aspects of brain function. Scientists continue studying exactly how these effects unfold. Each year reveals another piece of the puzzle. Interestingly, many familiar vitamins also depend partly on microbial assistance. Certain gut bacteria help produce vitamin K and several B vitamins. While our diets remain the primary source of most vitamins, these microscopic companions quietly contribute their own support. It is a beautiful reminder that humans have never lived entirely alone. We have always existed alongside countless helpful organisms. Perhaps one of the most surprising discoveries concerns serotonin. People often hear serotonin described as the happiness chemical. In reality, its role is much broader. It helps regulate mood, certainly, but it also influences sleep, appetite, learning, digestion, and many other functions. What surprises many people is that a large proportion of the body's serotonin is produced in the digestive system rather than the brain. This does not mean that gut serotonin directly creates emotions in the brain. It generally cannot cross the blood-brain barrier. Instead, serotonin has many important local roles in regulating digestion and communicating within the body. Even so, this fact beautifully illustrates how chemically active the digestive system truly is. Far from being merely a food processing tube, it is one of the body's busiest communication centers. Another fascinating partnership involves the immune system. Nearly 70% of the body's immune cells are associated with tissues surrounding the digestive tract. This arrangement makes perfect sense. The intestines constantly encounter enormous numbers of microbes, food particles, and unfamiliar substances. The immune system must learn an extraordinary balancing act. It must tolerate friendly bacteria, accept harmless foods, yet remain ready to defend against dangerous invaders. This delicate cooperation develops throughout life. Scientists believe early childhood plays an especially important role in shaping these relationships. From the moment we are born, the microbiome begins changing. A newborn's digestive tract contains relatively few microbes. Gradually, new organisms arrive from family members, food, the surrounding environment, and daily experiences. Over months and years, this invisible ecosystem becomes increasingly diverse. By adulthood, every person possesses a microbiome as unique as a fingerprint. Even identical twins eventually develop noticeable differences. Diet influences these tiny communities in remarkable ways. Fiber-rich foods help nourish many beneficial bacteria. Different plant foods encourage different microbial populations. Fermented foods introduce living microorganisms, although many do not permanently settle inside the gut. Researchers continue investigating how various eating patterns influence microbial diversity and overall health. One thing has become increasingly clear. The microbiome is dynamic. It changes throughout life. Travel, illness, antibiotics, exercise, stress, sleep, daily meals, all can influence which microorganisms flourish and which decline. Rather than remaining fixed forever, this hidden ecosystem continuously adapts to changing circumstances. Scientists have even begun exploring possible links between the microbiome and certain neurological conditions. Research is ongoing and often complex. Some findings are encouraging. Others remain uncertain. Many questions still await clear answers. What is exciting is not that we already know everything. It is that an entirely new field of biology continues unfolding before our eyes. Sometimes the greatest discoveries come not from confirming old ideas, but from realizing how much remains unexplored. Perhaps the most comforting realization is that your body functions through cooperation rather than competition. Your own cells, helpful bacteria, the nervous system, hormones, the immune system, the digestive tract. Each performs specialized tasks. Each depends upon the others. Life is less like a single machine and more like an orchestra. No instrument performs the entire symphony. Only together does the music emerge. Even the simple act of eating reflects this remarkable partnership. Your brain anticipates the meal. Saliva begins flowing. The stomach prepares digestive juices. The intestines coordinate movement. Gut microbes stand ready to assist in breaking down nutrients. Immune cells quietly monitor the environment. Hormones carry updates throughout the body. The nervous system integrates countless streams of information. By the time you finish a single meal, millions upon millions of tiny decisions have already been made without requiring your attention. It is one of nature's quiet masterpieces. As night settles more deeply around you, this invisible world remains wonderfully active. Tiny microbes continue their patient work. Nerves carry gentle messages toward the brain. Hormones drift through the bloodstream. The immune system stands watch with calm vigilance. Every part contributes to the peaceful rhythm of life unfolding inside you. And yet, among all these remarkable conversations, one ability remains especially mysterious. Your nervous system possesses an extraordinary talent for learning. It changes with every experience, every memory, every new skill, every habit. In the next chapter, we'll explore the astonishing science of neuroplasticity, the brain's lifelong ability to reshape itself, forming new pathways and quietly rewriting its own wiring with every passing day. The brain that is always rewriting itself. Imagine walking through a quiet forest for the very first time. There are no paths, only trees, soft moss, and scattered leaves covering the ground. As you carefully make your way forward, your footsteps bend grasses and press the earth beneath you. The next day, you follow the same route again. It feels slightly easier. After many weeks, a narrow trail begins to appear. Months later, countless journeys have transformed that once hidden route into a clear woodland path. Your brain works in a surprisingly similar way. Every thought, every memory, every conversation, every skill you practice, every experience you repeat, leaves tiny traces within the nervous system. Some pathways become stronger, others gradually fade. New routes appear, old ones become less traveled. Rather than remaining fixed like a carved stone statue, your brain is constantly reshaping itself. Scientists call this remarkable ability neuroplasticity. The word combines two ideas: neuro, referring to the nervous system, and plastic, meaning capable of being molded or changed. It does not mean your brain is made of plastic. Instead, it means your brain remains adaptable throughout life. This idea transformed modern neuroscience. For much of the 20th century, many researchers believed that once adulthood arrived, the brain's basic wiring was largely permanent. Children learned quickly because their brains were flexible. Adults, it was thought, simply worked with what they already had. Reality turned out to be far more hopeful. Although the young brain is indeed especially adaptable, modern research has shown that healthy adult brains continue changing throughout life. Learning never truly stops. Every new experience leaves its mark. Some changes are tiny. Others can be surprisingly profound. One of the simplest examples involves learning a musical instrument. Imagine someone picking up a violin for the very first time. The fingers feel clumsy. The bow moves awkwardly. Notes squeak instead of sing. Every movement requires intense concentration. But with patient practice, something remarkable begins happening. The fingers no longer search for every position. Movements become smoother. The ears recognize mistakes more quickly. Eventually, melodies flow almost effortlessly. The violin has not changed. The muscles have changed only slightly. What has changed most dramatically is the nervous system itself. Neural pathways responsible for hearing, movement, timing, and coordination have become stronger through repeated use. The same principle applies to countless skills. Learning another language, riding a bicycle, typing on a keyboard, swimming, painting, cooking, driving, even remembering a friend's phone number. Each repetition encourages certain neural connections while allowing others to weaken. In a sense, practice is not simply something you do. Practice is something your brain becomes. One famous idea in neuroscience is often summarized with a simple phrase: neurons that fire together, wire together. Although this statement simplifies a much more complicated process, it captures an important principle. When certain groups of neurons repeatedly become active at the same time, the connections between them often grow stronger. Future communication along those pathways becomes easier. Like our forest trail, the route gradually becomes well established. This helps explain why habits feel so automatic. The first time you tie your shoes, every movement requires careful thought. Years later, you may finish tying them while carrying on an entirely different conversation. The nervous system has transformed a complex sequence into an efficient routine. Even reading these words depends on pathways strengthened over many years. As a child, each letter demanded attention. Eventually, individual letters became familiar words. Words became sentences. Sentences became flowing ideas. Now your brain recognizes patterns almost instantly. One glance is often enough. The remarkable thing is that you rarely notice this incredible achievement because it has become so effortless. Memory itself reflects this constant remodeling. Many people imagine memories being stored like books placed neatly onto library shelves. Reality appears much more dynamic. Each time you remember an event, your brain briefly reconstructs it. During this reconstruction, the memory may become slightly updated before being stored again. Scientists call this process reconsolidation. It means that remembering is not simply opening an old file. It is more like quietly editing a living document. Most changes are small. Sometimes they are so subtle we never notice. But they remind us that memory is an active process rather than a frozen recording. Sleep plays a fascinating role in all of this. While you drift into deeper stages of sleep, your brain remains remarkably busy. Rather than shutting down, many neural networks continue working. Researchers believe sleep helps strengthen certain memories while allowing others to fade. Information gathered during the day appears to be carefully organized. Important experiences may become more stable. Less useful details may gradually disappear. Imagine a librarian quietly working through the night. Books are returned to proper shelves. Important volumes receive careful preservation. Temporary notes are discarded. The library becomes ready for another day. Sleep seems to perform something similarly elegant within the brain. Interestingly, forgetting is not necessarily a flaw. It is often a feature. Imagine remembering every single leaf you had ever seen, every face that briefly passed on a crowded sidewalk, every license plate, every advertisement, every sound, every cloud. Your mind would quickly become overwhelmed. Instead, the nervous system carefully filters information. Some experiences are preserved, others gently fade. This selective process allows attention to remain focused on what matters most. Forgetting, in many cases, helps make remembering possible. The brain also possesses a remarkable ability to compensate after certain injuries. When one pathway becomes damaged, nearby regions sometimes begin taking over part of its work. Recovery varies greatly from person to person and depends on many factors, including the type and severity of the injury. Scientists continue studying these processes with great care. Yet the very existence of such adaptability reminds us once again that the nervous system is not rigid. It searches for solutions. It experiments. It reorganizes whenever possible. Perhaps this flexibility explains why lifelong learning offers benefits far beyond acquiring new information. Every crossword puzzle, every unfamiliar recipe, every musical instrument, every conversation in a foreign language, every walk through a new neighborhood. Each experience invites the brain to build fresh connections. Curiosity itself becomes a form of gentle exercise for the nervous system. Even our senses continually reshape the brain. Professional musicians often develop especially refined auditory networks. Experienced taxi drivers may strengthen brain regions involved in navigation. Skilled athletes improve coordination pathways through years of practice. Artists become highly attentive to subtle visual details. The nervous system quietly adapts to whatever life repeatedly asks of it. This does not mean every change is dramatic. Most occur gradually. One tiny adjustment today, another tomorrow, thousands more across the years. Looking back, those countless small changes become extraordinary transformation. The same is true of habits. Whether positive or negative, habits become easier each time they are repeated because the underlying neural pathways grow increasingly familiar. Fortunately, neuroplasticity works in both directions. Old habits can weaken. New habits can strengthen. The forest trail may become overgrown if no one walks it. Meanwhile, a new path slowly appears elsewhere. Change requires patience. But the nervous system has always been remarkably patient. One step, one repetition, one experience at a time. Even now, as you relax and your thoughts become slower, tiny adjustments continue unfolding inside your brain. Some neurons strengthen their connections. Others reduce unnecessary activity. Today's experiences begin settling into tomorrow's memories. Your nervous system quietly prepares itself for a future it has never seen before. It is a living masterpiece that is never quite finished. Always learning, always adapting, always gently rewriting itself. And yet, despite all this remarkable flexibility, your brain faces one challenge every single second. It consumes enormous amounts of energy. In the next chapter, we'll discover why this 3-pound organ uses such a surprising share of your body's resources, how it manages its constant hunger for fuel, and why even while you sleep, it remains one of the busiest and most energy-demanding organs you possess. The hungry brain that never truly rests. Imagine owning a city with millions of lights. Street lamps glow through the night. Hospitals remain open around the clock. Traffic signals blink patiently at every intersection. Computers quietly process information. Water pumps keep flowing. Emergency services stand ready. Even while most people sleep, the city never completely powers down. Now imagine shrinking that city until it could fit comfortably inside your head. That, in many ways, is your brain. Although it makes up only about 2% of your body weight, the human brain consumes roughly 20% of the body's energy while at rest. For an organ weighing only around 3 pounds, this is an astonishing appetite. Every moment, billions of neurons are maintaining tiny electrical differences across their membranes. Signals race from one cell to another. Chemical messengers are released and recycled. Proteins are built. Waste products are removed. Tiny support cells carry out their own essential tasks. The work never truly stops. Unlike a muscle that can relax after lifting something heavy, the brain remains active every second of your life. Even while you sleep, even while daydreaming, even during moments of complete stillness. If your body were a business, the brain would be its most expensive department to operate. This enormous energy demand raises an interesting question. Where does all that fuel come from? The brain's favorite source of energy is glucose. Glucose is a simple sugar that circulates in your bloodstream after digestion. Every heartbeat delivers fresh supplies through an extraordinary network of blood vessels. Although the brain represents only a tiny fraction of body weight, it receives roughly 15 to 20% of the heart's blood supply. That is an impressive investment. Nature clearly considers the brain worth protecting. Interestingly, the brain stores very little energy for itself. Unlike muscles, which keep reserves of glycogen for future use, neurons depend on a steady delivery of nutrients from the bloodstream. This means the circulatory system must work continuously. Even brief interruptions in blood flow can affect brain function. Fortunately, the body has evolved multiple backup systems to help keep this precious organ supplied. One of the brain's greatest bodyguards is something called the blood-brain barrier. Imagine a magnificent castle surrounded by carefully guarded gates. Not everyone is allowed inside. Essential supplies are welcomed. Potential dangers are carefully inspected. Many substances are turned away altogether. The blood-brain barrier performs a similar role. Tiny blood vessels within the brain are lined with highly specialized cells packed tightly together. These cells act almost like customs officers. They decide which molecules may enter the brain and which must remain outside. Oxygen passes through easily. Glucose is carefully transported inside. Certain vitamins and nutrients receive permission. Many bacteria, toxins, and potentially harmful substances are blocked. Without this remarkable barrier, the brain would be exposed to constant chemical chaos. It is one of the body's most elegant security systems. Yet the barrier is not completely sealed. It must remain selective rather than absolute. Otherwise, the brain would never receive the materials it needs to survive. Scientists continue studying exactly how this delicate balance is maintained. Every year reveals new details about its extraordinary complexity. Another fascinating feature of the brain is its relationship with oxygen. Although your brain accounts for only a small portion of body weight, it consumes about 20% of the oxygen you breathe. Every breath quietly supports billions of neurons performing their endless work. With each inhale, oxygen enters tiny air sacs inside your lungs. From there, it moves into the bloodstream. The heart pumps it toward the brain. Microscopic blood vessels spread through every region like an intricate irrigation system watering an enormous garden. The total length of these tiny vessels inside the brain would stretch for hundreds of miles if placed end to end. Every neuron depends upon this constant delivery. Fortunately, your body manages this astonishing logistics operation automatically. You simply breathe. The nervous system handles the rest. But neurons are not working alone. For many years, scientists focused primarily on neurons themselves. Today, another group of cells is receiving long overdue attention. These are the glial cells. Their name comes from the Greek word for glue, because early researchers believed they merely held neurons together. What an understatement that turned out to be. Glial cells are anything but passive. Some provide nutrients. Others remove waste. Some build protective insulation around nerve fibers. Others help regulate communication between neurons. Certain glial cells even assist the immune system within the brain. In fact, glial cells outnumber neurons in many parts of the nervous system. Without them, neurons could not survive. Among the most fascinating are astrocytes. Their name means star cells because of their beautiful branching shape. Astrocytes help regulate the chemical environment surrounding neurons. They participate in maintaining the blood-brain barrier. They help deliver nutrients. They influence how signals travel across synapses. Far from being simple support staff, astrocytes have become central characters in modern neuroscience. Nearby work the microglia. These tiny cells act as the brain's resident caretakers. They patrol continuously, searching for damaged cells, debris, or potential threats. If something requires cleaning, they quietly begin the task. Imagine a dedicated maintenance crew working through the night while the rest of the city sleeps. Most citizens never notice them. Yet without their quiet efforts, the city could not function for long. Another type of glial cell produces one of the nervous system's most remarkable materials: myelin. Myelin wraps around many nerve fibers like insulation around electrical wires. This protective coating dramatically increases the speed of nerve signals. Without myelin, many messages would travel far more slowly. The difference can be astonishing. Some unmyelinated nerve fibers conduct signals at only a few miles per hour. Highly myelinated fibers may exceed 250 miles per hour. It is one of biology's most effective engineering solutions. Even the timing of energy use within the brain is fascinating. Different regions become more active depending on what you are doing. Reading activates networks involved in language and vision. Listening to music recruits additional auditory regions. Solving mathematical problems emphasizes different circuits. Navigating unfamiliar streets engages areas important for spatial memory. Yet remarkably, the brain almost never becomes completely silent. Even during quiet rest, large networks continue communicating. One famous network is called the default mode network. It tends to become active when your attention is not focused on a specific external task. During these peaceful moments, the brain may reflect on memories, imagine future possibilities, organize information, or quietly wander through ideas. Far from wasting energy, these restful periods appear to serve important functions. Sometimes the brain accomplishes remarkable work precisely when nothing obvious seems to be happening. Sleep reveals another extraordinary chapter in this story. Although your muscles relax and consciousness gradually changes, the brain continues consuming large amounts of energy. Researchers have discovered that certain stages of sleep help strengthen memories, regulate emotions, and perform essential housekeeping. One particularly fascinating discovery involves the glymphatic system. Unlike most of the body, the brain lacks traditional lymphatic drainage throughout its tissue. Instead, during sleep, cerebrospinal fluid flows more actively through spaces surrounding brain cells. This process appears to help remove metabolic waste that accumulates during waking hours. It is almost as though the brain schedules its deepest cleaning shift for the night. Imagine a museum after visitors leave. Floors are polished. Displays are dusted. Repairs are completed. Everything is quietly prepared before morning arrives. Your sleeping brain performs a similarly elegant maintenance routine. As you rest tonight, billions of neurons will continue exchanging gentle electrical whispers. Glial cells will nourish and protect them. Blood vessels will deliver fresh oxygen and glucose. Tiny pumps will maintain delicate chemical balances. Protective barriers will stand guard. Microscopic caretakers will continue their patient work. The brain may seem peaceful from the outside. Inside, it remains wonderfully alive. Always working. Always adapting. Always preparing for another day. And yet, despite all this astonishing complexity, your nervous system still faces one of life's greatest challenges: making sense of the outside world. How does your brain transform invisible waves of light into colorful landscapes? How do vibrations in the air become music? How does a simple touch become the comforting feeling of holding someone's hand? In the next chapter, we'll explore the extraordinary journey of your senses, discovering how your nervous system builds the rich, vibrant experience that you know as reality itself. How your brain creates the world you experience. Take a quiet moment to look around the room you are in. Perhaps you notice the soft glow of a lamp, the outline of a window, the texture of a blanket, the sound of distant traffic, maybe the gentle hum of a fan. It feels as though you are simply observing the world exactly as it is. Yet something remarkable is happening. Your brain never directly sees the room. It never directly hears the sounds. It never directly feels the blanket. Instead, Your nervous system receives tiny streams of electrical information and carefully constructs the rich experience you call reality. In many ways, your brain is the greatest interpreter you will ever know. Every second, billions of pieces of information arrive from your senses. Most are incomplete. Some are noisy. Others are delayed by tiny fractions of a second. Yet your brain combines them into one smooth, continuous experience. It happens so effortlessly that we rarely stop to appreciate the miracle. Consider vision. People often imagine that their eyes function like cameras. There is some truth in that comparison. Light enters through the clear front surface of the eye called the cornea. It passes through the pupil, whose size changes constantly to regulate how much light enters. Behind the pupil sits the lens. Tiny muscles reshape this flexible lens every time you shift your focus from something nearby to something farther away. All of these adjustments happen automatically. No conscious effort is required. Finally, light reaches the retina. This delicate layer lining the back of the eye contains millions of specialized cells called photoreceptors. There are two main kinds. Rods are extraordinarily sensitive to dim light. They help you navigate at dusk or during moonlit nights. Cones specialize in color and fine detail. Humans usually have 3 types of cones, each responding most strongly to different wavelengths of light. Together, they allow us to perceive millions of subtle color variations. Yet the retina does not actually send pictures to the brain. It sends patterns of electrical activity. Tiny signals travel along the optic nerve toward the brain, where the real work begins. Deep within the occipital lobe, millions of neurons start analyzing these signals. Some specialize in detecting edges. Others recognize movement. Some identify color. Others estimate depth or direction. No single neuron sees an entire face or landscape. Instead, countless specialized cells each contribute one small piece. Like musicians playing individual notes, they create something far richer together than any could accomplish alone. The final experience of seeing emerges from this astonishing collaboration. One fascinating example reveals just how much your brain contributes. Every eye contains a blind spot. This is a tiny region where the optic nerve exits the retina. Because no photoreceptors exist there, no visual information is collected. Logically, you might expect to notice a small hole in everything you see. But you almost never do. Your brain quietly fills in the missing information using surrounding patterns. Without telling you, it creates a seamless picture. You experience a complete world rather than one interrupted by gaps. Your brain edits reality continuously. Hearing follows a similarly elegant journey. When someone speaks, their voice creates tiny pressure waves moving through the air. These waves enter your outer ear and travel toward the eardrum. The eardrum begins vibrating. 3 tiny bones inside the middle ear, the smallest bones in the human body, amplify these vibrations before passing them into the fluid-filled cochlea of the inner ear. Inside the cochlea sits one of nature's most beautiful instruments. Thousands of microscopic hair cells sway in response to different sound frequencies. Despite their name, these are not hairs but highly specialized sensory cells. Each responds best to particular pitches. High notes stimulate one region. Lower notes stimulate another. The resulting electrical signals travel toward the brain, where sound finally becomes meaningful. Some regions recognize speech. Others identify music. Others determine where sounds originate. Still others connect familiar voices with treasured memories. A melody is never just vibration. It becomes emotion, recognition, memory, and meaning. Touch tells another extraordinary story. As your fingers glide across a wooden table, countless sensory receptors become active. Some detect pressure. Others respond to vibration. Some measure stretching of the skin. Others notice temperature. Certain receptors react only if tissue is being damaged. These different messages travel together through sensory nerves toward the spinal cord and onward to the brain. There, they combine into the rich sensation of touching polished wood. Your fingertips are especially remarkable. A single square inch of fingertip contains thousands of sensory receptors. This incredible sensitivity allows you to distinguish the texture of silk from cotton. Feel the grooves on a coin. Button a shirt without looking. Read Braille using nothing more than gentle contact between skin and paper. The sense of smell often surprises scientists. Unlike most other senses, smell has unusually direct connections with regions involved in memory and emotion. Perhaps this explains why certain aromas instantly transport us into the past. The scent of fresh rain on warm earth. Bread baking in an oven. Pine needles during winter holidays. The perfume worn by someone you loved years ago. Without warning, forgotten memories may suddenly feel vivid once more. A single fragrance can open a doorway that seemed long closed. Taste works closely alongside smell. Although we often speak of 5 basic tastes: sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami, the full experience of flavor depends heavily on aromas reaching the nose from inside the mouth while eating. This explains why food seems unusually bland during a severe cold. Your taste buds continue working, but much of the rich complexity normally comes from smell. Together, these senses create the experience we simply call flavor. Perhaps the most mysterious sense of all is time itself. Your brain possesses no single clock that directly measures passing seconds. Instead, different neural systems estimate time using remarkably complex patterns of activity. This helps explain why time sometimes seems to race by during joyful moments while stretching endlessly during boredom. The clock on the wall has not changed. Your nervous system's experience of time has. Attention plays an equally important role. At every moment, your senses collect vastly more information than you could possibly notice consciously. If your brain processed every leaf, every shadow, every distant conversation, every wrinkle in your clothing, and every tiny sensation inside your body simultaneously, life would become overwhelming. Instead, attention functions like a gentle spotlight. It highlights certain details while allowing others to fade quietly into the background. Even now, as you read these words, your brain is filtering thousands of other sensations without asking your permission. Perhaps you had not noticed the feeling of your feet resting on the floor, or the gentle movement of your breathing, or the pressure where your shoulders meet the chair. The information was present all along. Your attention simply rested elsewhere. This selective awareness is not a weakness. It is one of the brain's greatest strengths. It allows you to focus, to learn, to enjoy conversation, to appreciate music, to safely navigate an endlessly complex world. Without attention, every moment would become an avalanche of competing information. Perhaps the most beautiful realization is this: you do not merely observe reality. Your nervous system actively builds your experience of it. Light becomes color. Vibrations become music. Pressure becomes comfort. Chemicals become fragrance. Electrical impulses become the smiling face of someone you love. The world you experience is a masterpiece continuously assembled by billions of neurons working together with extraordinary precision. And they perform this astonishing feat every waking moment without asking for recognition. As night grows quieter and your own senses begin gently withdrawing from the busy world outside, your brain continues its patient work. The eyes blink less often. Sounds soften into the background. Muscles become heavier. Attention gradually turns inward. The nervous system prepares for one of its most mysterious adventures: sleep. Because when consciousness slowly fades, the brain does not become inactive. In many ways, it becomes even more fascinating. In the next chapter, we'll explore what truly happens inside your nervous system while you sleep, why dreams arise, and how your brain quietly repairs, organizes, and prepares itself for another beautiful day. What your nervous system does while you sleep. As evening settles over the world, something quietly remarkable begins to happen. The streets outside grow calmer. Lights disappear one by one. Birdsong gives way to the softer sounds of the night. For many living creatures, sleep is simply another part of the daily rhythm. Yet inside your body, bedtime marks the beginning of one of the busiest shifts of the entire day. Although sleep often feels like a period of complete rest, your nervous system knows otherwise. The brain never truly shuts down. Instead, it changes its priorities. The work becomes quieter, less focused on the outside world, more devoted to maintenance, organization, repair, and preparation. If you could somehow watch the sleeping brain from within, you would not see darkness. You would see activity, rhythms, patterns, gentle waves of electrical signals flowing through billions of neurons. Sleep is not one single state. It is a carefully choreographed cycle. Throughout the night, your brain moves through several stages, each with its own unique pattern of activity. Most healthy adults complete 4 to 6 of these sleep cycles every night. Each cycle lasts roughly 90 minutes, although this varies naturally from person to person. Like the changing seasons, each stage serves a different purpose. The journey usually begins with light sleep. This is the gentle doorway between wakefulness and deeper rest. Your muscles begin relaxing. Breathing becomes slower. Heart rate gradually decreases. Body temperature starts to fall slightly. If someone softly called your name during this stage, you would probably wake quite easily. Many people experience an odd sensation just as they begin drifting off. Perhaps it has happened to you. You feel as though you are suddenly falling. Your body gives a quick jerk. Your eyes open for a moment. This harmless experience is called a hypnic jerk. Scientists are still exploring exactly why it occurs. One idea suggests that as muscles relax rapidly, the brain briefly misinterprets the sensation as a loss of balance and reflexively contracts the muscles. Whatever its exact cause, it is surprisingly common. Soon, the brain enters deeper stages of non-rapid eye movement sleep, often called non-REM sleep. Here, remarkable changes unfold. Electrical activity becomes slower and more synchronized. Large groups of neurons begin firing together in gentle waves. These are known as slow waves. Imagine a stadium where thousands of spectators stand and sit in smooth, coordinated patterns. The activity is no longer scattered. It becomes beautifully organized. During deep sleep, the body performs many of its most important maintenance tasks. Growth hormone is released, helping repair tissues and support healthy muscles and bones. The immune system becomes especially active. Cells damaged during the day receive attention. Proteins are built. Energy stores are replenished. It is as though countless maintenance crews quietly emerge after closing time to care for the entire city. Meanwhile, the brain itself continues its own housekeeping. In the previous chapter, we explored the glymphatic system. During deep sleep, cerebrospinal fluid circulates more actively through spaces surrounding brain cells. This gentle flow helps carry away metabolic waste products that accumulate during waking hours. Although researchers continue studying every detail of this process, it appears to be one of sleep's most important contributions to long-term brain health. The sleeping brain, it seems, spends part of the night cleaning itself. Then something fascinating happens. Instead of remaining in slow, synchronized rhythms, the brain gradually shifts into a very different state. Breathing becomes less regular. Heart rate fluctuates. The eyes begin moving rapidly beneath closed eyelids. Brain activity suddenly becomes much more similar to wakefulness. This stage is called rapid eye movement sleep, or REM sleep. It is here that many of our most vivid dreams occur. For centuries, dreams have fascinated philosophers, artists, scientists, and storytellers. Ancient civilizations often believed dreams carried messages from gods or glimpses of the future. Modern neuroscience offers a different perspective, though many mysteries remain. During REM sleep, the brain becomes highly active. Regions involved in vision, emotion, memory, and imagination communicate intensely. At the same time, most of the body's voluntary muscles become temporarily relaxed, a phenomenon called REM atonia. This natural paralysis prevents us from physically acting out most of our dreams. Without it, sleeping safely would become much more difficult. Dreams themselves are wonderfully varied. Some are vivid adventures. Others are quiet conversations. Some feel completely realistic. Others delightfully impossible. You may find yourself walking through your childhood home while speaking with someone you met only yesterday. The brain seems wonderfully unconcerned by such unusual combinations. Dreams often weave together fragments of recent experiences, older memories, emotions, and imagination into stories unlike anything encountered during the day. Exactly why dreams occur remains one of neuroscience's most intriguing questions. Several ideas continue to be explored. Some researchers believe dreams help process emotional experiences. Others suggest they strengthen memories. Some propose they allow the brain to simulate situations, preparing us for future challenges. Perhaps they perform several roles at once. Nature rarely limits itself to only one solution. One thing is certain. Dreaming is a natural part of healthy sleep for most people. Interestingly, you may dream far more often than you remember. Many dreams disappear within minutes of waking. Others remain vivid for decades. Scientists believe that memories formed during dreaming are especially fragile unless reinforced soon after awakening. This explains why keeping a dream journal beside the bed often helps people remember more dreams over time. The simple act of writing strengthens the memory before it fades. Memory consolidation is another extraordinary task performed during sleep. Throughout the day, your brain collects enormous amounts of information. New names, faces, places, skills, conversations, facts, experiences. If all of this remained in temporary storage, learning would quickly become overwhelming. Instead, sleep appears to help organize these experiences. Important memories may become more stable. Connections between ideas strengthen. Skills practiced during the day often improve after a good night's sleep, even without additional practice. Musicians have noticed this. Athletes have noticed it. Students preparing for examinations often experience it as well. Sometimes progress quietly continues while we rest. Sleep also seems to help regulate emotions. After a restful night, challenges that felt enormous yesterday may seem more manageable today. Researchers believe healthy sleep supports communication between emotional centers of the brain and regions involved in thoughtful decision-making. The nervous system quietly restores balance while consciousness rests. Even creativity may benefit. Many inventors, writers, composers, and scientists have described waking with solutions that seemed impossible the evening before. Although sleep does not magically solve every problem, it appears to encourage the brain to reorganize information in fresh and surprising ways. Sometimes the answer emerges only after allowing the mind to rest. Perhaps one of the gentlest truths about sleep is that it is never truly empty time. From the outside, a sleeping person appears wonderfully peaceful. Eyes closed, body still, breathing slow. Yet inside, billions of neurons continue their patient work. Some strengthen memories. Some refine motor skills. Some regulate hormones. Some coordinate immune responses. Some quietly clean the brain itself. The nervous system remains wonderfully alive. Every night, without applause or recognition, it performs one of the most sophisticated maintenance routines found anywhere in nature. And as dawn slowly approaches, another transformation begins. Hormones shift. Body temperature starts rising. The brain gradually increases its alertness. The sleeping orchestra prepares for its morning performance. Soon, consciousness returns. Eyes open. The world comes gently back into focus. Another day begins. But before our journey ends, there is one final mystery waiting to be explored. How does this extraordinary nervous system change across an entire lifetime? From the first tiny neurons forming before birth to the remarkable adaptations of old age. In our final chapters, we'll follow the incredible story of your nervous system from beginning to end, discovering how it quietly evolves with you through every stage of life. How your nervous system grows, adapts, and changes throughout life. Long before you took your very first breath. Long before your eyes opened to see the world. Long before your heart was large enough to fit comfortably in the palm of a hand. Your nervous system had already begun its remarkable journey. It started with only a small collection of cells. Nothing about those early cells hinted at the extraordinary future ahead. Yet hidden within them was the blueprint for every thought you would ever think. Every memory you would ever treasure. Every laugh. Every conversation. Every dream. Every quiet moment of wonder. Only a few weeks after conception, one of the earliest structures to appear was the neural tube. This tiny tube would eventually become the brain and spinal cord. At first, it was astonishingly simple. But simplicity did not last for long. Soon, cells began multiplying at breathtaking speed. During certain stages of development, hundreds of thousands of new neurons were being produced every minute. Imagine building the world's largest communication network while simultaneously constructing every road, every bridge, every neighborhood, and every telephone line. That is something like what the developing nervous system accomplishes before birth. As neurons formed, they faced another incredible challenge. Each needed to find its proper destination. Some would eventually control muscles in the face. Others would help process sound. Some would become involved in memory. Others would help regulate breathing or heartbeat. Tiny growing nerve fibers stretched through the developing body, guided by chemical signals almost like travelers following invisible stars across a dark landscape. Most found exactly where they belonged. The precision remains one of biology's greatest achievements. Before birth, the nervous system actually creates more neurons than it will ultimately keep. This may sound surprising. Why build extra cells only to remove some later? The answer lies in efficiency. As connections begin forming, the brain carefully strengthens useful pathways while trimming away those that are less active. Scientists call this process synaptic pruning. Imagine a gardener caring for a young fruit tree. The tree first produces many branches. Later, careful pruning allows the healthiest branches to receive more sunlight and nutrients. The result is not a weaker tree. It is a stronger one. The developing brain follows a similar strategy. By reducing unnecessary connections, it becomes faster, more efficient, and better organized. When a baby enters the world, the nervous system is remarkably capable, but still wonderfully unfinished. A newborn can breathe, feed, recognize familiar voices, cry, grasp a finger, turn toward comforting sounds. Yet many of the skills adults take for granted require years of gradual development. One of the first great adventures is learning to control movement. At first, motions are broad and somewhat unpredictable. Tiny hands wave through the air. Legs kick energetically. The nervous system is practicing. With every attempt, new pathways strengthen. Months later, reaching becomes more accurate. Then comes sitting, crawling, standing, walking, running, jumping. Each milestone reflects countless tiny improvements inside the nervous system. Parents often celebrate these visible achievements. Behind every one lies millions of invisible changes taking place within the brain and spinal cord. Language tells an equally remarkable story. During the first year of life, babies can distinguish many speech sounds from languages spoken around the world. As they grow, the nervous system gradually becomes especially skilled at recognizing the sounds most commonly heard in their own environment. This specialization makes communication wonderfully efficient. It also explains why learning unfamiliar pronunciation sometimes feels easier during childhood than adulthood. Still, adults remain capable of learning new languages. The process simply relies on somewhat different patterns of neuroplasticity. Childhood is sometimes described as a period of explosive learning. There is good reason for that description. Children's brains form connections at astonishing rates. Every new face, every game, every story, every song, every question, every scraped knee, every discovery. The nervous system eagerly absorbs experience, shaping itself in response. Curiosity becomes one of the brain's greatest teachers. Then comes adolescence. For many years, people believed the teenage brain was nearly finished developing. Modern neuroscience tells a more fascinating story. Throughout adolescence and into the 20s, important changes continue. The frontal lobes, regions involved in planning, decision-making, self-control, and long-term thinking, are among the last areas to fully mature. Meanwhile, emotional and reward-related systems often become highly responsive. This combination helps explain why adolescence can feel like a time of tremendous creativity, exploration, enthusiasm, and sometimes risk-taking. The nervous system is still refining its balance between emotion and careful judgment. Far from representing a flaw, this stage reflects another chapter in healthy development. Adulthood often brings a different kind of change. Rather than growing rapidly, the nervous system becomes increasingly specialized. Years of experience strengthen particular networks. A musician develops refined auditory pathways. A surgeon enhances delicate motor coordination. A writer strengthens language networks. A carpenter builds extraordinary hand-eye precision. A teacher becomes remarkably skilled at recognizing subtle social cues. The nervous system quietly adapts to whatever life repeatedly demands. This lifelong flexibility remains one of its greatest strengths. Many people imagine the adult brain as becoming fixed. Yet, as we explored earlier, neuroplasticity never completely disappears. Learning continues. New memories form. Fresh pathways emerge. Old habits gradually change. Even later in life, curiosity continues shaping the nervous system. Of course, aging brings natural changes as well. Reaction times may become slightly slower. Certain memories may take longer to retrieve. Some sensory abilities gradually decline. These changes are common aspects of growing older, yet they represent only one part of the story. Many abilities remain remarkably resilient. Vocabulary often continues expanding. Knowledge accumulates. Pattern recognition becomes richer. Wisdom frequently deepens. Older adults often excel at seeing connections that younger people may overlook. Life experience becomes one of the nervous system's greatest resources. Scientists have also discovered encouraging evidence that healthy aging is influenced by many lifestyle factors. Regular physical activity supports healthy blood flow to the brain. Lifelong learning encourages continued neuroplasticity. Meaningful social relationships stimulate numerous cognitive networks. Adequate sleep allows the brain to perform its nightly maintenance. Balanced nutrition provides essential building blocks. None of these guarantee perfect aging. Biology is always influenced by genetics and chance as well. But together, they help create an environment in which the nervous system can continue functioning remarkably well throughout life. Perhaps the most touching feature of the nervous system is not its speed, nor its complexity, nor even its astonishing adaptability. It is its continuity. The very same nervous system that first learned to recognize your mother's voice, later learned to ride a bicycle, then learned to read books, to make friends, to solve problems, to fall in love, to comfort others, to remember birthdays, to laugh at old jokes, to appreciate beautiful music, to recognize familiar faces growing older alongside your own. Through every chapter of life, your nervous system quietly accompanies you. It records your story. It changes because of your experiences. It becomes, in many ways, a living reflection of the life you have lived. Even now, as another peaceful day slowly comes to an end, billions of neurons continue their patient conversations. Some preserve today's memories. Some prepare tomorrow's thoughts. Some simply keep your heart beating with gentle reliability. The journey that began before birth continues tonight, just as it has every night of your life. And in our final chapter, we'll step back to appreciate the extraordinary masterpiece as a whole. A silent network of astonishing beauty that has been faithfully carrying you through every moment, often without you ever realizing it was there. The quiet miracle that has been with you all along. Our journey began with a simple idea. Inside your body exists a silent network that never sleeps. A hidden system so familiar that most days you hardly notice it at all. Yet from the moment your life first began, it has been faithfully carrying you through every heartbeat, every breath, every step, every memory, and every dream. Tonight, we have wandered through that remarkable landscape together. We have followed electrical signals racing along delicate nerve fibers faster than many high-speed trains. We have explored the softly folded hills of the brain, where billions of neurons quietly exchange messages every second. We have traveled the great highways of the spinal cord, where information flows endlessly between brain and body. We have discovered the autonomic nervous system, your tireless caretaker, gently regulating breathing, heartbeat, digestion, blood pressure, and countless other processes without ever asking for your attention. We have listened to the slow conversation between nerves and hormones. We have visited the bustling world of the gut microbiome, whose tiny inhabitants quietly cooperate with your nervous system every day. We have watched the brain reshape itself through neuroplasticity, building new pathways with every lesson learned and every experience lived. We have marveled at the astonishing appetite of a 3-pound organ that consumes about 1/5 of your body's energy while remaining active even during sleep. We have explored how light becomes color, how sound becomes music, how gentle pressure becomes the comforting sensation of holding someone's hand. We have watched the sleeping brain carefully organize memories, clear away waste, and prepare itself for another sunrise. Finally, we have followed the nervous system through an entire lifetime, from its earliest beginnings before birth to its quiet adaptations during older age. Each chapter has revealed something remarkable. Yet perhaps the greatest surprise is not any single discovery. It is how beautifully everything fits together. The nervous system is not simply a collection of separate parts. It is an ongoing conversation. The brain speaks with the heart. The heart responds. The lungs report each breath. The stomach sends updates after every meal. The skin describes the world outside. The muscles explain the body's position. The eyes gather light. The ears collect vibrations. Hormones drift through the bloodstream carrying longer-lasting messages. The immune system quietly shares information. Even the trillions of tiny organisms living within your digestive tract contribute their voices. Nothing works entirely alone. Life emerges through cooperation. One of the most beautiful lessons modern neuroscience continues to teach us is that the body prefers partnership over isolation. The older scientific image of separate systems working independently has gradually given way to something far more elegant. The nervous system communicates with the endocrine system. The endocrine system influences immunity. The immune system affects the brain. The digestive system speaks with all of them. Every discovery seems to reveal another conversation already taking place. Nature rarely builds isolated machines. Instead, it creates living communities. Perhaps this explains why the human body remains so endlessly fascinating. The closer scientists look, the more complexity they discover. Not chaotic complexity. Organized complexity. Elegant complexity. Like an enormous orchestra whose musicians rarely miss a note. Of course, your nervous system is not perfect. Sometimes signals become interrupted. Sometimes disease changes the conversation. Sometimes injury damages important pathways. Sometimes aging gently slows certain processes. These realities are part of being human. Yet even then, the nervous system often demonstrates extraordinary resilience. Nearby neurons search for new routes. Healthy regions adapt. Other systems compensate whenever possible. Recovery is not always complete, and every person's experience is different. But throughout medicine, countless examples remind us that the nervous system possesses a remarkable capacity to adjust, reorganize, and continue moving forward. Scientists continue exploring mysteries that remain unsolved. How exactly does consciousness arise from billions of neurons? Why do dreams take the forms they do? How are memories stored with such incredible richness? What creates the unique feeling of self? How do emotions emerge from electrical impulses and chemical messengers? Despite astonishing progress, these questions remain among the greatest scientific mysteries of our time. Perhaps that is fitting. After all, the organ trying to understand the brain is the brain itself. It is one of the few things in nature capable of studying itself. Every year brings remarkable discoveries. Researchers develop new microscopes capable of revealing tiny neural connections in astonishing detail. Advanced brain imaging allows scientists to observe living neural networks in action. Artificial intelligence helps analyze enormous datasets that would once have taken generations to understand. Yet with every answer comes another fascinating question. The journey of discovery continues. And perhaps it always will. Still, you do not need advanced laboratories to appreciate one simple truth. Right now, as you quietly rest, your nervous system continues its faithful work. Your heart beats with gentle consistency. Your lungs rise and fall in calm rhythm. Millions of receptors monitor the position of every joint. Tiny blood vessels deliver oxygen to waiting neurons. Chemical messengers drift through the bloodstream. Glial cells quietly nourish and protect delicate nerve fibers. The brain gently balances countless streams of information, all without asking anything from you. Most of us spend our lives noticing only the moments when something goes wrong. A headache, a tingling hand, a sore back, fatigue after a long day. Those moments naturally draw our attention. Yet perhaps tonight offers an opportunity to notice something different. To appreciate all the things that are going wonderfully right. The breath that arrives without conscious effort. The heart that continues beating through every season of life. The eyes that gather light. The ears that transform invisible vibrations into voices and music. The hands capable of extraordinary gentleness. the memories that connect today's experiences with years gone by, the imagination that allows you to picture places you've never seen, the curiosity that inspired you to begin this journey in the first place. These are not ordinary things. They are quiet miracles. Each one depends upon a nervous system that has remained astonishingly faithful from your first moments until this very evening. As your thoughts become softer and the outside world grows quieter, your nervous system gently shifts toward another night of careful maintenance. Some neurons will strengthen today's memories. Others will loosen connections no longer needed. The glymphatic system will quietly help clear away the byproducts of another busy day. Hormones will follow their familiar nightly rhythms. Your heart will continue its patient work. Your lungs will breathe in peaceful rhythm. Your brain will carry you into dreams, then safely guide you back toward morning. And when the first light of dawn eventually arrives, without fanfare, without applause, without asking for thanks, your nervous system will once again awaken the extraordinary experience that you call being alive. It has been your oldest companion, your quiet guardian, your invisible storyteller, your faithful guide through every chapter of your life. And as it continues its endless conversation beneath the silence, perhaps you can rest a little more peacefully, knowing that one of nature's greatest masterpieces has been caring for you all along. So, as sleep gently draws nearer, let your thoughts drift like leaves floating on a calm stream. There is nothing left to organize, nothing left to solve. Your remarkable nervous system already knows exactly what to do. It always has. And tonight, just as every night before, it will quietly watch over you until morning.